All right, it is 6 o'clock and we'll be doing our June 15th board meeting, but first let's stand for the. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now a moment of silence. All right, Keith.
All right, we always start out with our consent agenda. Are there any questions? Okay, with that, I'd like to make the recommendation that the consent agenda, financial report, and board minutes of the regular board meeting held on June 10, 2024, and the special board meetings held on June 21 and June 24, 2024, be approved as submitted.
All right, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mindy, second.
I'll second.
Second by Jessica. All in favor? None opposed.
Up next, we have our campus.
Just real quick though. Don't say hi to Eric Roberts.
Absolutely. Hey, you should have started with
I
that.
should have, Eric. That was my bad.
That's okay.
I want to make sure you get you properly introduced. Thanks for joining us, Eric.
I'm so glad
Glad
to
to
have
have
you. Thank you, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that.
My bad. We went right into business. Eric, we should have.
This is how we keep it to an hour.
Up next, we have our campus improvement plans. We have Ms. Tabor and our principals who are going to share that.
Yes. So this year, our campus improvement plans are connected to our district priorities that are listed here for you. And so each principal is going to share the plan, the summary for their building, and you also have their full plan in your packet. Mr. Martin, can you go to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am.
For our process this year, we started back in the spring. Campus improvement plans, according to state rules, are due to the district office by May 1 each year. So we start in around April, looking at our data, looking at where we want to go for the next school year. And then by May 1, principals have their draft to us, and we spend some time working through that draft. We had individual meetings and met with each campus team and gave some feedback. And so they've worked through that process. They have July school board approval, and then we'll come back and review the monitoring of each of those areas in October, January, and April. And so in their plans, they know what data source they're going to use and what they're looking for at each of those points along the way. So I'm going to let Ms. Bennett kick us off with the primary.
All right, so I will start. Our first one is under clear and measurable goals. And this year we'll be making SMART goals every quarter. And in those SMART goals, we are expecting 80% of our students to be proficient on each one of those goals, and they're going to be coming from our essential skills. We're going to use proficiency scales and success criteria in order to make sure that we know what our students need to know to be successful at those on those goals. The second one is individual achievement, and with that, we are still working on using our common formative assessments, and within that, we'll take the data from there and form our win groups. And this year, one thing we're adding to our win groups are pre and post assessments in each group, so that way we can make sure that every student is growing and learning the essential skills that we're working on. Next is under clear ongoing evaluation. So this is really more on Ms. Day and I. So our goal is to provide our staff with observations and evaluations that are based on multiple sources of information. So we want to make sure we're providing necessary feedback for our staff, and we want to make sure that we're doing it in multiple sources and not just off of one evaluation or one observation that we do in our classroom. The next is collaborative teams. I think I've said this before, if you ask me what drives our building, I would tell you it's PLCs and the PLC process. So we're continuing to fine tune those. We're going to make sure that we're doing a better job of taking notes during our PLC meetings and using that data in our notes in our guiding coalition meetings to see if there's any trends or if there's anything that we need to focus on that we're seeing across the building. The next two are all about feedback. That's one thing we've learned a lot with our visible learning training, and one thing we heard a lot in San Diego was how powerful feedback is and how important it is to give it in a timely fashion. So the bottom two, one is feedback from our staff every quarter based off of our academic goals, which is increasing student achievement. How is the implementation of visible learning going? Do we need support in such areas? And we'll do those every quarter. The last one is on our behavior management, and again, we'll do that quarterly. This year, we got to participate in the Learner Collective, and we worked really hard on our leadership academies and using those academies to focus on some of our executive functioning skills in students who that are lacking those. And so we're going to get feedback from staff on how is that going, how are academies going, are there things that we need to improve on? Any questions?
So is the feedback surveys from the staff, are those gonna be anonymous?
Yes, ma'am. Both of them, on both the ones on the academic piece and the behavior piece.
Okay.
Yes,
I think you said 80% is your goal for proficiency.
yes, sir.
Is that I'm sure that's great. My question is there a baseline? Is 80% a stretch goal, or is this, what's the background behind the 80?
I would say, well, most research shows that 80% is the baseline that we use to say if 80% of your students have mastered it, you're to a point where you can move on to a next skill or a skill that might be a prerequisite. This skill is a prerequisite for the next skill.
Got it.
I would say a stretch goal for us would be 90 or more. Now, in some of our more basic foundational phonics skills, our percent is 90 to 95%.
Okay.
Because in those areas, there is no wiggle room to not have it mastered because it's so important to have those foundational skills.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, for the intermediate school, we also partnered with the Learner Collective this last year to work on differentiation within our classrooms and really in our tier 1, so our core classroom, and not waiting until we get to win time or intervention time to intervene with kiddos. So academic performance, we're going to continue to strengthen the tier 1 differentiation and instructional planning with data. So if we plan well, then we can differentiate during instruction and not have to wait and catch them on the back end. So that's our academic performance goal. For college and career readiness, increased rigor using proficiency scales. That's something that we loosely do. Like, we're not great at that, and so that's something that our guiding coalition felt like we definitely needed to hone in on this year. And then a common model of instruction. So that's something that we're working on district-wide, and definitely like holding everyone accountable to that same model of instruction. Powerful leadership and instruction. We have gotten really good at peer observation at our building. Our teachers like to go in and out of each other's classrooms. We want to dive a little bit deeper and see like what strategies are you going to take back and implement, and how are we going to do that and come up with a more systematic approach to that. MTSS academic and behavior leads are 2 positions that we are able to fund out of our Learner Collective grant, and so that's 2 things that we've decided to add this year that we haven't had in the past. So I'm really excited to get teams built around working on behavior interventions and academic interventions with our teachers. Community and stakeholder engagement, vision with stakeholder input and expectation communication. So that's outside of our building. We're really good at talking to one another, but pulling in parents and students and different community members just to make sure that our vision is communicated well to everyone and the expectations are communicated well. Optimizing resources. So establish essential standards. We've done a good job of that, but we need to go back and just make sure that we're on the right track still and make sure that we have everything how it needs to be. And then clear MTSS procedures for behavior. So that's going with our new lead for MTSS behavior. And then safe and respectful schools, align behavior expectations. So we've already started that work a little bit this summer with middle school and primary to see like what are they doing at primary, what are they doing at middle school, and where does intermediate fit in that. And then stakeholder engagement, again, making sure that we're bringing parents and students on board as well.
You've talked a couple of times about stakeholder input or stakeholder engagement, but I mean, what's just one example? Like what's a...
So, for our vision, I just met with the Learner Collective people this morning. We're in the next round of that as well, talking through different ways to pull them in to talk through our vision of our school. So usually our teachers do that at the beginning of the year, and we're really good at doing that within our 4 walls, but bringing in parents to talk through like, what is your vision for a PRH student in 3rd or 4th grade? How can that fit going through 12th grade? Bringing in community members, business leaders, things like that.
Good.
What does MTSS stand for?
Multi-tier student support.
Thank you.
So RTI is all kind of the same jargon. It just means like what systems and procedures do we have to support kids in different areas. So academic is one realm, so your academic interventions usually for math and literacy, and then we also now need behavior as well. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, welcome. Okay, so middle school, I would say our word kind of for the year is being intentional. If you look through all of these, a lot of them we've done a little bit of, but we want to make sure that we're intentional in using them the right way. So for monitoring progress, we have tracking data for SMART goals. We're going to be creating SMART goals based on the proficiency scales. We're going to be using success criteria to make sure that our proficiency skills are where they need to be. We're going to use detailed response to that data. They're going to be using that during win time, doing their interventions based on that data for individual students. And then we are going to be moving from the success criteria to then taking it to the students and understanding their learning process to they're reflecting on their proficiency. They're tracking where they are on all those essential standards throughout that. And then if you skip down, we'll skip one and go to the collaborative teams. That kind of ties in also that as the students learn through the learning process, we're going to go through the learning pit and learn kind of how they have to struggle to learn and then how they have to work their way back out of it to get to proficiency. They're going to be able to have student-led conferences with their parents as they come in to explain their proficiency, where they're at in the learning process, even if they haven't met it, that they can tell them how they're getting there. And then on the opportunities to observe, our teachers are really great at observing. They want to go into each other's classrooms. They want to learn from each other. They want to share from each other. So we want to be very intentional where they are going through during doing learning walks. We are going to use our district instructional model that we're putting out to our teachers this year, and we're going to have a focus at every faculty meeting where the teachers are going to then take that month to do learning walks through other teachers' classrooms. They're going to be able to offer and say, hey, I would love to share what I know about that. You can come to my classroom, or hey, come, and they're going to go. And so they're going to work on that for the month and then reflect on it. And then if you go back up to the communicating a clear vision, our walkthrough reflection data, so what Ms. Shelton and I will be doing for walkthroughs, will then, after they've worked on it, looked at it for a month, we will be giving them feedback, because that's one thing they've asked a lot more for, is we want that feedback. We want to hear how we're doing. We want to see what you're seeing in the classroom. So we're going to focus our walkthroughs then on that instructional model piece, so they can have the feedback on that. And then the acknowledging success, we're going to celebrate all of those things. And we're going to have our SOAR awards and celebrations. We're going to celebrate between the teachers on the proficiency and our SMART goals, which our SMART goal is also 80% on the essential standards. We're going to celebrate that for students. The teachers are going to be celebrating that as they meet their proficiency. Since we are really wanting the students to know where they're at, we want to celebrate that too. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, for the junior high, our clear and measurable goals. So our teams as well are going to be setting SMART goals, and we're going to be doing it frequently. That way we can measure our student academic success for each of our essential standards. That academic growth will also be measured through our MAP data, our common formative assessment data, so we have multiple ways to measure our student growth. Also, our focused curriculum, we're going to continue to really fine-tune our essential standards. As we have new team members join our staff, it's important that we all as a team agree on what our essential standards will be, so we'll continue to do that. And then also continue to create our learning maps to make sure that an entire year plan is in place before we start the school year, so we know where we're going to end up. And then also focus on those district-wide, those 50-day instructional plans to help us get to that end of year goal. Powerful instruction, we're going to implement the new district model of instruction, and one way we'll help to do that is through regular learning walks. Just as you've heard described by other principals, our teachers as well love to watch each other in action, because that's where they get some great ideas from each other, and we're going to implement another step to that, which is to give each other feedback as well. Next, opportunities for input. We are really excited to start a parent site council this year. Our counselors are going to help us implement this at our building. In the past, I started a principal lunch chat with our students last year, where students get to meet with me a couple times a year to give me feedback on the schools. I'll be doing that monthly this coming year, but then also have parents meet with us as well to really give us input on how they feel their students are doing in our building and how we can help their students be even more successful. We're also going to implement more opportunities for parents and students to give us anonymous feedback through surveys as well. We also find that our staff love to give us input, so we're also going to give that opportunity to our staff to meet with me regularly on a really just casual basis, but give them that opportunity to give me feedback. Then again, offer the anonymous survey as well. Finally, we really need to do better at acknowledging success at our school, to be more public about it. We are doing so many great things at Blue Ridge Junior High. We aren't very good at bragging about it. So one of our goals this year is to really just celebrate our successes, to communicate better with parents about how successful their individual students are being in our classrooms, and that will, of course, then lead to more engagement for students and parents. Questions?
I absolutely love these parents surveys, these chats, it's really great.
And they're super fun for me too, just to have that chance to sit and talk to students on a casual basis. They really like it. They beg to be in my next group. So.
I echo that. I love that you're doing that. Can you share, you said you did it last year, the lunch chats. What are some really interesting or maybe innovative nuggets you took from those discussions?
That's a great question. One that's off the top of my head is the students were adamant that they be allowed to leave the cafeteria earlier to go play outside, because they have more outside playtime during lunch. That was a big one for them. Because typically we wait about maybe 15, 20 minutes before we let them go outside. They said, no, we want to go out at least 5 minutes earlier than that. So we thought that was great. What is also really interesting to me is what students consider good instruction, and they're always right on target. It's always amazing to me that students are very observant about how they're being taught in the classroom, and they're very well spoken about how they like to be taught. And that's really good feedback for me to share with our teachers.
Thank you.
Sure.
How's it going, guys? Hope everyone had a great summer. Definitely enjoyed mine. Looking forward to this school year. A big part of moving forward is continuing to monitor the progress that we've made and doing some of the same things we were doing good and improving on some of the things that we were doing bad. So making sure that we're making data-informed decisions, right? And some of that goes back to the critical content, and that is tying some of our essential standards, what teachers have deemed as essential standards, and making sure our assessments line up with those, right? So that the data-informed decisions that we're making are actually going towards the standards that the students are. Also having clear and ongoing evaluations. I personally believe some of the biggest impacts that are made are administrators being in the classroom, right, and seeing some of the things that our collaborative teams are talking about, not only seeing them being talked about, but actually seeing them come to fruition. So we're going to continue to do that. You guys were a part of, I think, some observations this past school year. We'll continue to do that. I think kids enjoy seeing new faces in the classroom and seeing adults in the classroom. Collaborative teams, we sent a group of teachers, as well as I think every building did, to the PLC Institute this year. I think it's a great way for any teacher to kind of light the fire again and get going for the next school year, but definitely good for those new teachers. So we're looking forward to this school year and how our new teams are going to form. With new staff coming on board, obviously the dynamics of teams change, so we're looking forward to seeing how those teams are going to move forward. Also, enrichment and intervention, we believe we can do a much better job of what we've been doing. We're excited about one of the resources that we have this school year, which is RTI Scheduler, which is going to allow us to do a few more bells and whistles and just have some more accountability during that period of time during the day. So, that's kind of what our focus is for this upcoming school year. Any questions?
I have a couple of generic questions, Mr. Martin. Have we received Atlas results back yet? When do we expect those?
October.
So are we leaving time to adjust our plans to make sure that what our essential standards align with Atlas to see if we need to make any tweaks there come October?
So, can I step in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we just went to a training last week, Mr. Martin, Mr. Ramey, Ms. Tabor and I, and there's a lot of talk about the Atlas. And to answer your question, honestly, it's gonna be very difficult, because we're getting just generic scores back in October.
Okay.
We won't get our letter grade till March or April.
Okay.
So to really do that, I think we'll be able to see though, and use the Atlas tool more consistently in the classroom, like you'll see us using, like they demonstrated to us in that training, we'll be able to use the classroom feature, we're gonna do the interims. But as far as exactly cut scores and what you're striving for, if we go back to the Arkansas State standards that were released last year, then we should be right on target with exactly what the Atlas. I mean, that message was crystal clear that success will be met by sticking to those Arkansas standards, because those standards are directly tied as we've written our own tests for the state.
Okay.
And just to piggyback on that, it would be nice to have those, right, in time, but I think that's part of the transition of moving to a new testing system, but it's not like we don't have data to go off of, right? We still have our ACT, we still have AP, we still have just our unit tests that we're doing as well. So we do have some data to go off of.
Favorite part?
Yes, and so with the Atlas test, because it's exactly aligned to Arkansas standards, we do have a testing blueprint that shows us how heavily weighted some standards are on that assessment, and that is how our teachers went through the process of selecting their essential standards last summer, was based on that blueprint.
And then student growth. So Ms. Bennett, you talked about your proficiency skill, 80%. Do we have student growth goals for all of the other schools, and are we gonna talk to those at a later date as to what our student growth goals are, like the intermediate, middle, junior high, and high school?
We set a district-wide, but in the first round of instruction, we should get to 80% with proficiency scales, so we're gonna work on proficiency scales this year. But then by the end of the year, the goal is to get to 90% through intervention. So district-wide, we'll all be working on that 80 to 90.
Okay.
On our essential standards.
Perfect, thank you.
Response to intervention. So that's the students who may have not understood it, or also the students that may have really understood it, and we have to do something different as opposed to tier 1 instruction. We have to look at tier 2, targeting those kids that didn't get it, but also enriching the kids that did, right? Making sure we're moving them forward.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, the work our staff has put in on this is commendable. It's not just the people here, it's everyone in the buildings, our teachers, our staffs, our principals, Ms. Tabor, and it's how we're moving forward. The I is the most important part of the improvement plan, because it's about making sure we're improving teaching and learning on a daily basis. So with that, I'd like to make the recommendation that we approve the campus improvement plans as presented.
All right, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion? Motion. Eric, first motion. Good job. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Ryan. All in favor? Is that opposed?
Up next, we have our architect agreement for the football field, turf, and track. It has come that time where it's time to consider replacing our current synthetic field and the track itself. The why we're here with this is our current playing surfaces, they're nearing their end of their life expectancy. On average, synthetic turf lasts about 8 to 10 years. I believe this season is season 12 for us. The reason why we've been able to extend the life of our turf is the great job our maintenance crew does, and also our coaching staff. They do a great job of grooming the field and taking care of it. So with that, it's time to start considering that. The work is to install a new synthetic playing surface on the football field, and that will also include striping for soccer for the future, and it will be a 118-yard by 70-yard field. I didn't realize until we started this that there's not a set size for a soccer field. It varies, so it has to be within specs, and that's well within. I believe it's 110 to 120 yards long, and I think 65 to 80 yards wide. So that will fit, the 118 by 70 will fit on our field, and to also, within the specs, is a concrete pad for bandstands on the north end of the football field so that we can put a band bleachers up to pull them out of the stands so they can be part of that, and also to free up seating in our stands. And with the track itself, we would remove the turf track and put in a traditional hard surface track that is a pavement base with a polyurethane or polyethylene coating. I can't remember which one of them, a poly coating. The process tonight is step one. It's approval of the owner architect agreement. That gives us permission to send the project out for bid. That bid process has to last at least 30 days to give companies the opportunity to bid. In mid-August, if we follow that timeline, we would open up bids. Mr. Lewis Architect and Engineers would take care of that process for us. Mr. Elliott's our architect. And at the September board meeting, we would bring the bids to y'all for approval or not. And then hopefully construction would begin kind of November, December after football season. From what we've been told, the construction phase will last about 4 months, but we also realize that November, December, January, February, March may not be the best months to build in, so it may run a little longer than that, so it should be 4 to 5 months for the construction phase of it. The cost, we're anticipating this to be about $1.6 million for the field, the football field, and redoing the track. The district, we're in financial shape where we will not be financing or asking for a millage increase or anything like that to pay for the project. The savings will come from the district's building fund reserves that we've been saving for the past several years, and we'll utilize that to pay for the project. And that's what it looks like. I apologize for the blurry yardage markers. I could not get it to clear up. What you'll see is you'll have a black track that, honestly, black track's cheaper than the coloring of the red, but we will be doing the, Coach Ray, is it called exchange areas?
Exchange zones.
Yeah. Exchange zones in red to mark those off and everything. We're using the same letter font that we have in the gym. In our gyms, I believe it's called Michigan State for the Blackhawks and everything, to keep everything similar, along with your the bird head that is on the majority of our courts and everything. So that's kind of what it looks like.
That white square is the band area you're talking about?
Yes, yes, sir. We're on
North
that
end.
end. And that is not the scale.
Yeah.
That is where we would put the stands. Yes, sir.
So, question from December to May, track season, what are we doing now?
Yes, sir, that is track season. Coach Craig is working with Rogers School District so that we can have access, that we can go over there and partner with them and use their track some to practice and make sure we're good for the season.
And for the band, is there gonna be any covering over those, or just?
Right now, we have a concrete pad. Honestly, I thought when you ordered band bleachers and everything, it would come with the cover. That is not the case. I learned that. You'd have to build the cover separate from the stands themselves. I guess you're basically building the shed roof and placing the stands underneath. So we'll have to see if that's possible or not with wind ratings and things like that, because I don't want to put anything out there that could be dangerous for any situation.
You mentioned soccer, you see the soccer field on there, I appreciate you doing that. And you mentioned future, is there a expected program start academic year?
Well, we're working on that now. My goal is to, this year we have partnered with the city and Youth Thunder, the Thunder program. What is it?
Pea Ridge Thunder.
Pea Ridge Thunder. The field out there, it's going to serve a couple of purposes. The city's done a great job of leveling that off and grassing it. It gives our community another place for soccer, and it also gives for the 16U and 14U teams to have have a full-size soccer field. It also allows us to have another practice field, a grass field as well. Our goal is to start this, we're in the 2-year cycle. You know, we just did the 2-year cycle with the sports through AAA. So at the end of this 2-year cycle, that we have soccer going. That will also probably include, you know, we'll need to look at locker room space. We'll be bringing y'all a plan in the future to increase our locker room space without increasing the square footage of our footprint on the GMI campus. So we're working on that now. So it's not 5 years down the road, it's in the foreseeable future to have it to where we're planning. And we'll have to make that decision. Are we gonna start out with JV for 1 year and then roll to varsity, or just play varsity? So we'll make that decision in the next year or so. Anything else? The architect agreement, you know, it's standard. Architect fees are 6%. We will not be using construction management for this. This is not a building. We'll hard bid it and save the 6 or 7% with that. If it were a building, it would be a different story.
Do we host band marching contests or anything that would be affected as well?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
What we hosted last year were like regional assessments and
Okay.
things like that, and those have been in the PAC, in the band room. They have not done a marching competition here in the past.
Similar to,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'll wait, please.
Marching season's finished, before November.
Okay.
You know, the beauty of having the turf field is now you can use it all year round. So when you go to re-turf and redo all this, you're gonna disrupt something.
Right.
And so, we tried to pick what's the least restrictive area, you know, timeframe that we can utilize and get it done maybe over the winter months when we're inside a little bit more. But it's just the best we can do, and we're gonna hope for great weather so we can get it done quicker.
Yeah, and we are
Just
very
wanted to make
aware
sure.
that we are the Embassy Suites of Key Ridge. Everyone uses our facilities. There's going to be about 120 to 150 day window where that facility is not going to be open to the public.
Okay.
At least track events will be more often hosted here, because the field, it's not preferable the way it is now.
Yes, sir. We are, a turf track is not a traditional high school track.
No.
No.
And this will allow us to have a competitive track
That's it.
with
That's
what
exactly
all our
right.
counterparts.
Yep.
have.
Great.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, with that, I'd like to make the recommendation that we approve the owner and architect agreement with Lewis Architect and Engineers for the returfing of the football field and the resurfacing of the track.
Okay. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
I'll motion.
Motion by Mindy. Second by Jessica. All in favor? None opposed?
All right, thank you. Up next, we have our MOU with Missouri Southern State University. This is, we've had this MOU in place for several years. It comes up once every 3 years. What this does is it allows us to have student teachers and field and clinical experiences for those students going to MSSU on our campus. It's a wonderful opportunity for us. The best way to find new employees sometimes is for them to come work in your buildings and everything. And to be honest with you, almost every educator goes through student teaching, and it's very important for us to provide opportunities for our future teachers. So, are there any questions? With that, I'd like to make the recommendation that we approve the MOU with Missouri Southern State University.
All right, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to present.
All right. Motion by Ryan, second.
I'll second. Or you can second.
And I'll second. How about that?
There you go.
John will second.
John will second.
All right. All in favor? None opposed?
Okay. Up next, we have our MOU with Reality Check. This is an annual agreement. I think y'all have all seen the great work that they do in the 479 room or building and everything with our students. It's the same price as last year, $30,000 total, which is a good price for the services that we get and the staffing that they provide. So I'd like to make the recommendation that we approve that again.
Okay.
I had a question. though.
Yes, ma'am.
There's no change to the age.
No, ma'am.
Everything stays the same, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mindy, second? Second by Eric. All in favor, raise your hand. None opposed.
Up next, we have board-to-board transfers. I added one or two, and gave y'all this sheet. Right now, we have 4 students wanting to transfer in, and we have room in those grade levels, and we have 1 student that petitioned to transfer out today to, in grade 9. So we have a total of 4 students wanting to transfer in and 1 transfer out. We have room, and in the past, if we've had room, we've always approved. Are there any questions? With that, I'd like to make the recommendation that we approve the board-to-board transfers as presented.
Okay. We have a recommendation, we have a motion. Motion by Jessica, second by Ryan, all in favor? None opposed.
Up next, we have policy updates. Mr. Ramey was blessed with this about mid-June. And what this is ASBA has been going through their policies, and they've been making sure that all policies are aligned with the changes to rules, statutory language, and all that. All of these are recommended by ASBA. Are there any questions? A lot of them are minor. The word 18, the numeral 18 changing to 18, but it's to make sure that we are legally compliant.
Questions, David?
Okay, with that, I'd like to make the recommendation that we approve the changes to board policy as presented.
All right, we have a recommendation, do we have a motion?
I'll motion.
Motion by Eric, second. I'll second. All in favor? None opposed.
Up next, in our July meetings, we always approve our student handbook for use. We always approve it for use instead of adopting it, and the reason why is policy always supersedes the handbook. So if there's a change in policy, we will amend the handbook immediately. I've sent it electronically, the handbook, but it's really thick. So I sent the table of contents. Are there any questions on any of the changes? They line up to what we just approved for policies. Okay. With that, I'd like to approve the student handbooks for the 24-25 school year for use.
All right, we have a recommendation, do we have a motion? Motion by Ryan. Second by Jessica. All in favor? None opposed.
All right, up next, we have our food service bids in July of every year. We approve our food service bid contracts for grocery supplies for the cafeteria this year, and it was last year as well. It's SGC, Springfield Grocer, came in with the lowest bid at $396,206. They've been really good to us for the past 2 or 3 years and did a good job. Are there any questions?
Just curious, what are the 2 items they did not bid?
Oh, I have no idea.
It just said.
Broccoli.
Broccoli and cauliflower.
I have no idea. And as you can see in there, everybody did not bid on some items. Sometimes it may be where they do not carry that item.
Okay.
And we can go to a secondary source to get
Perfect.
those.
Okay.
And some, some items are paid through, I'm gonna call them commodities. School districts get free PAL dollars from the Department of Agriculture for basically overstock, whether it's cheese, meat, stuff like that. And a lot of times, sometimes those items, they know they're covered under PAL dollars. Districts aren't going to do that. A perfect example is like hamburger meat. If hamburger meat is available to commodity, you always purchase it through there simply because it's cheaper.
Okay.
So, with that, I'd like to make the recommendation that we approve the food service bid for the 24-25 school year with SGC in the amount of $396,200.06. Cannot forget the 6 cents.
All right, we have a recommendation, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mindy, second. Second by Ryan, all in favor? None opposed.
Yes, ma'am. We are going to go to section 7, school, home, and community relations, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Martin.
I also added to your table or your place today was information about the upcoming teacher and employee fair. It's on August 8th, and we're excited to host that again this year. We have a new partnership. We've been working really hard with the Greater Bentonville Chamber, which includes Pea Ridge, to build some connections and create partnerships. And they've been really helpful in helping us get started and some things like that. We also have on there our theme for the 24-25 school year is Elevate Pea Ridge, and we're going to be seeing that in a lot of places. This is usually where we kick it off with this back to school event, but this is about the teacher fair and employee, and we'd love to have you also on that day. That's where Mr. Martin will kick off the school year with a back to school for all staff and all employees. And we have the new CEO and president of the chamber coming to be our guest speaker. So he's a great, if you haven't heard him, his name's Brandon. He's a wonderful, great speaker, and we're excited that he's going to come kick us off as well. We'll also recognize employees who have been in the service for, in service with us for 5, 10, 20, and 25 years. And so it's just a great day, and we culminate with the teacher fair event, and we feed the staff. So just to let you know about that event, and it's coming your way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you know anybody that wants to give out a gift certificate, just sign them right up, and we'll take care of it.
All right, up next, we have our approval of the audit for year ending June 30, 2023. I know y'all received those in the mail and everything. There's a lot in there. The most important thing is, I think we're for the 5th or 6th year in a row, there have been no findings. Ms. Burnell, Ms. Tucker, Ms. Rose, everyone that works through PO process and everything, we do a really good job of making sure that we follow process and are within guidelines and everything. So, any questions? All right, Ms. Burnell, thank you. I know this is a lot of work. With that, I'd like to make the recommendation that we approve the audit for year ending June 30, 2023.
All right, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion? I'll make the motion. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Eric. All in favor? None opposed?
Mr. Dodd, next we have personnel.
We're good.
Okay.
Let me take this. Are we good? All right, we're good.
Okay. I'd like to start off with resignations. I'd like to make the recommendation that we approve the resignation of Blake Rudolph with regret.
All right. Have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ryan.
I'll second.
With regret. And second by Jessica. Yep. All in favor? None opposed?
We opposed, does he like that?
I mean, ideally, we would
Yeah.
turn it down. I just don't know what happened.
A mess.
A mess. Weird phone call.
For employment, I'd like to make the recommendation that we approve the hiring of Melissa Witcher, Trey Fairchild, Gary Fair, Joey Davis, Susanna Reardon, Kelly Walker, Marky Hell, Julie Lacoste, Abigail Underneer, Kelsey Blevins, and Caroline Canable.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion? Motion by Eric. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Mindy. All in favor? None opposed?
And lastly, we have transfer. I'd like to make the recommendation that we transfer Teresa Morgan to cafeteria manager at the junior high.
Okay. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion by Ryan. Second? I'll second. All in favor? None opposed?
Mr. Dow, that's all I have.
Mindy?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
A second? All in favor? And we're done. 6:44. Thank you.